in terms of Webflow's AI ambitions, if I was Vlad, sorry, Vlad. So when we talk about people losing their jobs, they've kind of already lost them. Code components are great. That's a very personal question, Yana, okay?
Okay, Samuel. So you have said that Webflow lacks a clear direction with their AI tools. Would you tell us, what do you mean by that?
Straight in there. Yeah, so it was kind of, I mean, you know, the AI bubble conversation is very real right now. A lot of stuff is, everyone's trying to find their place in this kind of crazy world of AI at the moment. And Webflow is no exception to that. And it was their last Webflow conf where they literally came out with a whole heap of stuff. They started a few months ago with their little chat thing that could build basic elements, basic websites. And we gave that a go and it was meh, you know, as a lot of this stuff is. And then the Webflow conf just gone, they just came out with like, there was nothing original in that, you know, in that onslaught of things. You had the classic kind of, you know, vibe code tool. You kind of had a slightly refined version of their chat interface, which they released previously. And I mean, really, it's in the response from the community and the designers where, like, they weren't impressed with it. There was nothing. It was like, what is this? Who is it for? And there was a lot of confusion amongst the community, which, again, I sort of looked at that and assessed it and thought, well, you know, the AI stuff that Webflow are doing, it's not really, it's trying to take the job away from designers that they actually enjoy, that the Webflow as a tool is actually good for, which is creating pixel perfect designs from the very hands of the designers that design it. So we didn't really empower them all too much. It felt as though they just copied a bunch of tools that were already out there and slapped it in the face of their user base and didn't really ask, what is it that you want AI to achieve for you? You know what I mean? So it was kind of an amalgamation of those things where I just felt like, yeah, who wants this? Like, and it doesn't seem to lean into the strengths of Webflow. So yeah, that's kind of where I was coming at with that statement.
Yeah. But I also know that you're a developer and you have been playing around with the Webflow MCP. So if you had all the strings in your hand and you were making decisions as a CEO of Webflow, would that be the thing you would bet all your money on, or would there be something
MCP
else?
specifically, or just, you know?
Yeah, maybe if MCP is the golden thing that everyone should do, or would there be any other directions you would go into?
I mean, definitely not MCP. I mean, MCP is just another tool, and I definitely think that people should consider MCP if you want to be, I was going to say, if you want to be lazy. I don't mean if you, as a bad thing. Like, if you just understand that you can literally write natural language and that will update the Webflow CMS at the very least, like add a new blog entry and, you know, write me a blog or whatever, you know, that's just another tool in the tool belt. But in terms of, you know, Webflow's AI ambitions, if I was Vlad, sorry, Vlad, if I was, you know, I would, I mean, it comes down to the users, it comes down to the community, and I would do a real reset on what our users want to do with Webflow. And they know this. I don't think they knew this from a long time ago. Understand what the users want and how they use AI in their current workflow. How does that fit in? And then see if Webflow can facilitate that. You know, maybe it's to do with content writing or something like that. You know, their designers are fed up of doing lorem ipsum and they time and time again generate content. I don't know. It's, my philosophy is always the technology comes last in everything. Even with tools, when a client comes to me, we'll probably get into all that, but when a client comes to me, I I try and separate myself from what the tool does. It's like, what are your challenges? What is it that bothers you? What are you constantly doing on a day-to-day basis that really costs you money or costs you time? And then it's, okay, how can the tech solve this? So it's really just coming back to basics. What do the designers do? Where are their pain points? And then having that creative mindset to think, well, how can Webflow solve this, and how can Webflow AI solve this, and then really draw it back to that. And I think that they'll find a lot of open doors to new features, new technologies that actually benefit the community and their users, as opposed to let's just copy Lovable and hopefully they'll come. You know, Webflow already has a very established user base. They can't jump onto the scene in the way that Lovable have. They've already set expectations. They've already gained a bit of momentum, and they've already got a loyal and dedicated community that they have to manage those expectations and over time convince them of a new way of doing things. It's otherwise people don't like change, right? People get scared of change. Yeah. So yeah, that would be my approach, Vlad. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. What I have talked about, obviously, about these things with some Webflow users, and my sense is that people are actually more excited about the little things like the alt text generation and meta titles and those sorts of things. And of course, there is like potential in the whole AI builder thing if it really like does take a lot of your back, like the manual stuff from building, but people are not confident that it will do that. And now I'm with you. It feels like that they just had to do something, and they just released it. And hopefully, in the future, it will be better. Don't you think?
Like, I totally get we're in a really exciting time when it comes to AI, and I've described myself as a kid in a candy shop with all of these tools that you want to play with. And, you know, if anyone's followed my stuff, you know that I'm kind of the guy that tries new tools and things like that. So I completely sympathize with Webflow and any other person wanting to experiment and seeing where this all lands. Like, we're not, you know, we need to give Webflow and anyone else a break and say, you know, they're allowed to experiment and not know what's going to happen with all this stuff. So just putting tools out there and learning from the data and then refining it is a totally cool approach. I just think that Webflow have such an established user base. They've got thousands of committed community members that would happily talk to them and influence the tooling and the stuff that they've built. I just think they missed on that part. And to your point as well about, you know, little things like alt text, whatever, Apple are great at doing this, right? They are great at abstracting the technology and having it where it matters. They don't need to tell you that it's AI that organizes your photo library or cleans up your images or whatever. It falls into your workflow effortlessly. And I think that's where we'll get to with AI. I think that, again, it's such a buzzword. Investors want to hear it. Consumers want to hear it. We're still in this exciting world right now, but it will fall into that subtle little alt text analyzer or whatever, which you mentioned. And it's just it's a timing thing. I think we're all excited little kiddies, you know?
Yeah, totally. But we're diving deep into the nitty gritty already. Mm-hmm. We gotta do little intros before we continue. So my name is Janne Parri. I'm a Webflow partner all the way from Finland. Yeah, that one country in the Northern Europe. And with me today is none other than Samuel Gregory. Samuel, so you have your own studio, Jupiter and Giraffe. You have a podcast with Kabarza, Cmd+AI, and you managed to somehow publish videos on your personal channel, YouTube channel, I mean. So do you have any time for regular old clients work? And if you do, what sorts of projects do you like to focus on?
Really interesting you mentioned that actually, because it is October 22nd at the moment as we record this. I'm feeling very much like the content is it was becoming a problem where the content was just a cyclical thing where I just needed to get stuff out there, that I wasn't taking the time to develop, to work with clients and work with them on a deep level. So I'm reshifting things, maybe going to be posting a little less frequently, but also to actually work with clients and learn the new tools, use the new tools, and give my honest feedback rather than a panic rush to when as soon as something gets released, I'm the first person to get a video out and not actually really deep dive into the tools. So yeah, working with clients, working mostly building applications and internal pieces of software. And in the world of AI, just leveraging this new and exciting area where what once used to take hundreds of thousands of dollars to build an internal piece of software to help you get your work done is now something that costs a fraction of that, can be produced in half the time and start delivering value. So that's where I'm living at the moment, and I'm dealing with a few clients in that world, which range from medicinal, what do you even call that, like medical industries, all the way through to HR, all the way through to real estate. Like it's very varied in who we deal with, but what we're doing right now is the building of the tools.
Yeah, beautiful. So, do, do you often have a client that has heard about like the vibe coding thing, and then they know that maybe it's not the right way to do, and then they come to you and ask that, how could we do this in a lean way?
No, in short. I am dealing with someone at the moment who has vibe coded an app, who saw the bright shiny object and has got to a point where they've realized, oh crap, I can't build this. I can't take this further. So I'm working with them, but how I found those were that they're literally a friend, who has their own agency and all the rest of it. So it was more of a referral partnership rather than seeing an influx of people panicking and realizing that, holy crap, I can't actually build this application. I think the theory is that there's plenty of them out there. I've just not seen them just yet, apparently, unfortunately. So maybe maybe there's something in the fact that people who are building the tools were not even in this industry in the first place, so that they're not even able to think, right, how do I take this, or who do I speak to take this app any further? But beats me.
Yeah, totally. You have clearly more sophisticated clients, and if they have vibe coded, they are afraid to say it out loud to you, probably.
Yeah, for sure. We might even talk about it. Like, I'm fully in on the vibe coding thing. Like, I think it's recognizing the strengths in that and knowing where its weaknesses lie and just making the best of it. I don't think it's a dirty word. So yeah, all the vibing out you can do.
But relating to this, I'm very curious about your current workflow. You have mentioned it in the Cmd+AI stream at some point, but where are you at with your own workflow? What tools and how much of the AI have you gotten into it?
So you are so lucky because you're the first person to hear this, but I do have a video going out tomorrow. So technically you'll be the maybe last person to hear about it, but who knows? So I've just recorded a video on this. I'll be releasing it tomorrow. And I feel like I've got a really, really good workflow down at the moment, which is really working for me. First of all, I think we're in an age where if someone wants if someone tells you about a piece of work they want to do or a project they want, it's so much easier just to produce that work, to show them a proof of concept. So with that in mind, because that's the thing, the industry is in this weird world where it's kind of a trust me bro system of so you can build this thing that I'm going to build, and you've kind of got examples which don't quite match what I want to do, and this and that and the other, and you're saying, hand me over all this. I'm like, let me just show you what we can do. Okay. And so I will 9 times out of 10 thus far, well, actually 10 times out of 10 for now, but I'll get into why I want to reduce that in a sec. I jump into Replit, and Replit is one of these fancy vibe coding things. The history of Replit, it was a community or a collaborative coding environment. I'm not too sure, but now it's a vibe coding tool. And in my opinion, one of the more fleshed out vibe coding tools, because it has such a ecosystem around it. You know, all of the others would throw the prompt to the AI and give you back the React thing. Replit is a little bit more involved in that. It has databases. It builds databases as the front and center to the app. I stick it in Replit. And you'd be surprised at how often I've done this, but I've been on the train into the office and I'll whack out a prompt on Replit, set it to build over the next 40 minutes, and then get to the office and it's mostly there, and then I'll start working on it. It's crazy. So that's really good for me, because then I'll spend a bunch of time thinking about the prompt and whatever. And once it's in Replit, like I said, it's really good at starting the projects. Replit is quite expensive. It is. And I have a subscription to Claude Code. I will then push it to Git and then pull it down, and then I'll actually start getting the meat and potatoes of it done inside of Claude Code. I just prefer that interface and that way of working. The reason why I said I want to kind of reduce that is, and I think the answer lies in a tool called Taskmaster. I want to replicate Replit's AI, whatever it's doing. I want to replicate that in a plugin, in an series of MCPs or agents or something. I want to replicate that so I can start projects in Claude Code, because that will save me a hell of a lot of time. I don't need Replit. Although I want to support Replit, I want to just fully rely on Claude Code or some sort of local development. And then, it's through, so that's completely AI up until this point. And then working with Claude Code is pretty much completely AI. And I think the secret sauce comes into play when you're looking at the files, the file structure, and you're referencing files that you want to manipulate or referencing files that you want to provide context to, and working in narrow areas of your product. And that's it. It's just iterating and building from there. Sometimes I'm writing code, sometimes I'm whatever, but I think I'm good enough now where I can figure out I sort of know the architecture. I know somewhat how something needs to be built, and I'm there managing and monitoring the AI. And it's that rinse and repeat until it's kind of done. And oftentimes I'll present that alongside the proposal to the client and say, look, this is something we've whacked up, which has taken half a day, maybe even less. And if we get the job, then it's just a case of scaling that up and being a bit more diligent with security and scalability, and just looking into the nitty gritty of what it takes to take a app from MVP into production. And that's what's been working for me at the moment. I've been really enjoying that, because my interest lies very heavily in the UX, right? Often people ask, what am I doing whilst AI is building my code? Well, what I'm doing is actually using the app, literally just thinking about what's going on and thinking, that could work better. And I'll make notes on things I want to change, or I'll write a prompt, preemptively of what I want to change and whatever. And I'm just able to focus on the UX and maybe write some tests or think about other areas where in traditional development, 100% of your time is mostly just development. There's never breathing room to just think about other things. And that's what I love about AI development, is that my brain is able to breathe,
Yeah. That is beautiful. And that is the ideal. So the AI could do all the manual work, and people could focus on what matters. But are you close to your goal to start every project in Claude Code, or are there any technical limitations at this point?
Yeah, so like I say, the Taskmaster thing is the closest way to do this. And this is an MCP where you can ask it to generate a PRD based on a bunch of requirements, and then it takes that PRD and breaks it up into phases. AI isn't... This is why I always gravitated towards Replit. AI, I don't know why it's very hard for it to start up a project. So my theory is, again, first person hearing this, my theory is it's just starting with a boilerplate, whether that's a Next.js project with the base technologies that you kind of want to use, so that that's the context the AI has to work with. So if it's a mono repo, React with Express, or if it's a Next.js app, I'll install what I need and then ask it to build the app that I want in the context of that boilerplate. So that's where I'm thinking. I just haven't had the time to really do this. And I've got 3 or 4 streams trying to use Taskmaster, and I think I was trying to understand a few things at the same time. So I really struggled with it, but I think I'm slowly getting there right now. So yeah, TBC on that one. But in theory, I think I'm there.
Yeah. I believe quite a few outside and inside of development are trying to get some sort of unified or one chatbot to rule them all. But of course, I'm a Webflow dude, so I'm curious about where does Webflow lie in your toolbox? When do you use it and when do you don't use it?
I mean, truthfully, I don't use Webflow an awful lot. I definitely, because my interest and my love for Webflow is that I saw that it empowered designers. And I saw that it empowered designers who don't traditionally have a background in building websites. And for better or worse, Webflow lacked the translation. Or actually, they were very, very good at it. But traditionally, organizations and business accounts for things like the Webflow YouTube or the Framer X account or whatever, typically they never get a big following. It's always the raw, well, I say unbiased, but like opinionated viewpoints of the community that are able to translate, how to do certain things and give different perspectives. We can be a bit more loosey-goosey with our presentation style. All that being said, my history with Webflow came from seeing that I can provide a service to the community, teach them about website concepts coming from as a developer. I've always been a developer. And so that meant that I would always use Webflow to teach things and whatever. So really my usage is never by my own choice. I never promote or sell Webflow to anyone. My Webflow work comes from people finding out and hearing me talk about Webflow and saying, hey, can you work on this website or do this? And I'm totally happy doing that. So it's weird. It's very much YouTube inspired or YouTube centric, my involvement with Webflow. And I'm happy with that. I definitely see that it has pros. If someone was to genuinely ask me about what tool I think they should use, Webflow falls into that. If they just don't want a headache, basically. They want something that's hosted. They don't have to worry about the CMS. They don't have to worry about all of the bits and bobs that go through that to get a website online. They can just use Webflow and they are maybe design focused. And those are clear indicators to me when someone wants to use Webflow. Or I'd recommend.
But the landscape is changing quite rapidly. So I have talked about this a couple of times on this podcast. But firstly, the Webflow has evolved, and then there's all the competitors like Framers and whatnot, and all this wipe coding things. And Web Studio was there at some point, maybe is still. But how do you see, what are the competitors that Webflow should be afraid of?
Yeah. So it's funny because they have made a lot of developments and they've really, I remember maybe this time last year where Webflow really separated themselves from all of the other players. They really went heavy on the, let's call it advanced website builder tool. Framer were going in the direction of let's make it as simple and as designer friendly as possible. Framer were let's lower the bar. Webflow pushed the bar. And so I really don't think that there's much competition where Framer is. I mean, I'm sure you can draw some sort of graph or whatever. And I think Webflow do exist in their own category. When it comes to who Webflow should be afraid of, the way that I think about it is that there's no other businesses that really put them any sort of disadvantages. Framer are probably the closest, but I think that they have, how do I say this? It's from the inside. It's like, they're destroying them, self-destruction. I think they should potentially be concerned with themselves of losing sight of what they are good for and what service they provide. So, the AI ambitions we spoke about before being one of those things, really alienating some core, user base because they've just thrown AI into the faces of a user base that inherently doesn't like AI. Designers don't tend to like AI. If there's one criticism the podcast gets is the creative aspect. They've stolen and this and that. So they have the potential to sort of self-destruct. I think that they've really got to bring the reins back in a little bit, I think. But I don't think there's any companies out there that are really competing with the same sort of standard as Webflow to build the advanced websites that Webflow is capable of.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Of course, there's the past. In the past, Webflow advertised themselves as a tool for designers to create their beautiful designs. But nowadays, of course, Framer, as you said, has a lower bar when you come out of Figma to replicate the Figma design, or even design in Framer itself, because they have this new, was it design canvas pages or something like pages? Yeah. But do you think that if there is a developer using all the coolest, newest AI tools, Claude Code, Cursor, Replit, whatever, they could decide to just manually with an AI to code a website instead of using Webflow?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think I produced a couple of videos touching on this aspect, like answering that question when it comes to it. I mean, first and foremost, like Webflow is primarily a marketing site builder, right? It's great for internal marketing teams to put together websites using components and this and that and the other. Whereas Code is really good for building apps with lots of integrations and custom and bespokes. It's software. It's for software. No one should be writing code to build a website, really. Most people, actually. You're talking to the person who's got a coded marketing website, but that's beside the point. I know what I'm doing. I'm able to just dive in and I know what I'm trying to achieve. And for lack of a better word, design is not my main focus, although we can achieve that, certainly with a Figma MCP. So I know the temptation that a lot of Webflow people have when it comes to, coding has AI, and if I'm able just to spin up a website just using natural language, then that looks really, really appealing. Then they try and implement the design, and that's where a lot of designers really struggle. Like, a lot of designers really want to they want the UI. They want to drag slides around and pick colors and various things like that, which typing into a prompt box is not enjoyable for them. So, and there's no good way. I mean, there's a couple of tools coming out. I think I reviewed one of them. I've forgotten the name of it, but they describe themselves as the cursor of web design or something like that. But there's no start it in code, bring it up, and then put it into this other tool or whatever, and then you can design with a UI. There's no real nice way to do that at the moment. But yeah, I can see, going back to your point, I can see what the temptation is, but I don't think there's any immediate threat in that beyond just designers curious to see if they can build websites with AI. Because then you introduce, again, Webflow takes the security aspect away from you. You don't have to worry about that. You have to build that in with code. You're really trying to think of an analogy for it. Like, writing code is literally just the blankest canvas you can give someone. Everything you write, you have to write everything that you need, and a lot of those good things go missed, security being one of those things, So yeah, I don't think there's any immediate threat, and there's absolutely a place still for no-code builders like Framer for Webflow. It's just a shame that they're getting pretty bloody expensive now. They get really expensive, you know, but they provide a convenience, you know. So yeah, if you want all of that convenience, the security out of the box, then you've got to kind of be prepared to pay a little bit extra for it. But you know,
Yeah, totally. And I'm of course quite deep into the Webflow sphere. And of
yeah.
course, as I have put all my eggs into kind of one basket, I'm asking that, should I be afraid of? But actually, if we take a step back, like let's say designers or developers, should all of us be somewhat like afraid? I know that you have talked about that, about what roles AI is really killing. So what's your stand on that at this point?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, especially Dario from Anthropic is throwing out a lot of scary comments. And I think we've got to write, you know, we do need to be mindful of that and concerned about that. But my biggest message really isn't, it's not, you know, it's not killing off jobs. AI is not killing jobs. It's not eradicating it off the face of the planet. I think I describe it as it's just making the pool a lot smaller. So now you can build a really advanced application or a really big Webflow website. You can use one person to do that. And this is actually derivative from a long time ago. Like you would, you know, it used to be you'd have a designer and you'd have a UX person, and now you just you just get a product designer who can kind of do a good job at both of those tasks. You know, people are always looking to consolidate, and now they can get a full-blown development team with one developer who knows how to use AI. So the pool is shrinking. And I saw a tweet from Primogen the other day, quoting Dario from Anthropic, saying we're 36 months into AI taking our jobs. The thing is, I'm going to debate with Primogen here. The thing is, there is already business owners that are choosing not to hire people or don't have to hire people because of AI. Yes, people aren't literally being fired and being told that they've lost their job. Maybe we're not there yet. But I know for a fact that people have said to me, I was going to just hire X, Y, and Z, but I just did it myself in ChatGPT. So there's a team there that just lost their job because the project manager, or, you know, whatever their role was able just to do it in AI. So when we talk about people losing their jobs, they've kind of already lost them. And if they are going to get hired, you need to be a kind of standout person that's really leaning into the benefits of your skill set. When we talk about Webflow, it's a bit tricky because obviously Webflow, there's nothing directly in Webflow just yet that's really helping you get your work done. We can maybe talk about how they framed the AI assistant that they released.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that Webflow designers should be looking into other parts of their workflow, whether it's, again, you'll see it in my video, I talk about requirements gathering and how AI can help you pick apart and understand a requirements gathering session in order to build features, streamlining your processes around maybe being directly in Webflow to help you stand out and be a better person in other areas. I really don't want to endorse AI doing absolutely everything, that you can just sit around in your underwear and, you know, not really do any real work. I think the best people are those who are going to leverage AI as opposed to replace themselves with AI. So in all that being said, the grand scheme of the AI job market is something we need to, I mean, I was talking to my mum about it last night. My mum barely even knows what AI stands for, let alone, you know, the fact that she's telling me that she's afraid of AI taking over. It's a real issue. Some optimistic aspects of that I'd love to share are that I think that there will be mass layoffs. There has been mass layoffs in Accenture, in Duolingo, things like people have let people go in the age of AI. But we're in this excitable period where we're going to try out what works. I think 50% of the people that were fired, you know, now will be invited back because we'll start to realize that AI is average at best, and we'll learn what AI is really good for and what it's terrible at, and think, oh, wow, we got rid of that person doing that role. We need to get someone back because it could never do as good job as them. So I think we're just in this unknown time period where it seems scary, but life always finds a way, and we will adjust to the AI world. Maybe that's more time and more energy spent with our families. Maybe that's a whole heap of new other pieces of work open up just because AI has taken that. So whilst the future may seem scary, it's only because it's unknown. But we've encountered this issue time and time again. New exciting technology comes in, disrupts the industry. We work around it. We find workflows, we find mechanisms, we find jobs, we find fulfillment in spite of. I don't know whether that's the right word to say, but like we work around it is what I'm trying to say. I don't think in spite of is the right word there, but So change is coming. It will suck. It will hurt for a little bit, but I think we'll find our place in it all, and we will know no different in 10, 20 years. We'll just think,
Yeah.
COVID as an example, completely shook up the industry. We know no different now. Everyone's like, yeah, we work from home, we figure out a way.
Yeah, totally. Oh, there was so much there. So,
I hope you're taking notes. Let's backtrack, right? Pool is getting smaller. That's what I started out saying. I think the pool is getting smaller.
Yeah, one thing I picked up from the internet, I cannot remember who said it, but it was about like the future role or our actually current role as humans with AI. We have to kind of be good initiators, like starting stuff, and like the finishers, like doing the little details that AI just does not do. So take the project to finish. And I'm not sure if that will be the case in a couple of years, 1 year, 10 years, but I really resonated with that, and I think that was somewhat like on par with your statements.
Yeah.
But change is inevitable, and we are definitely living some interesting times. But I wonder if everybody has thought the same way in the history. Maybe.
It's cyclical. It's happened time and time again, When the car first came out and people were on horses, when the tractor came out and eradicated a whole, field full of workers picking corn and things like that. It's cyclical. It's the same conversation over and over again.
Yeah, and I wonder if we get like even more specialized in different fields. Like I already like find it fascinating how specialized people are. Like I of course think that everybody is doing like this same work that I am, but when I go outside, that does happen sometimes. I see that people are doing all sorts of weird, very specialized stuff, and maybe AI and other tools will just like increase that. Would you think
that's what I mean, right? Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like we will find other areas around. It will open up doors. It will open up opportunities elsewhere. That's the optimistic way of looking at things. The world as we currently know it is not relevant in the future. In an AI future, the way that we do things, the way that we serve people, the way that we earn money, it's just not relevant now, or it won't be in the future. It was going to look like a very different place.
Yeah. And hopefully every episode of this podcast does not have to be about AI. I did not start this as a AI podcast, but
you can't invite me anywhere without me talking about AI. It's just I find it so fascinating.
It's not you, but it's like everybody. Like everybody has a stand and opinion and experience with AI, and it's on everyone's mind right now.
Yeah,
but okay.
And, just to finish on that is like this. I'm very much. I love new technologies. You can see that in my entire history on YouTube. I've always loved new technologies. But AI is different in that I saw a future very early on. I was talking about AI nearly 2 years ago on another podcast that I had with a friend. We were talking about AI. And I have seen a I'm scared. The easiest way to put it is that I am scared, and the only way I feel is that I stand a chance of success in the future, if anyone wants to follow me or whatever, is I need to immerse myself in every aspect of AI as much as I can, to know where it sucks, to know where it's good, to know where it can help me, to know where it can hinder me, and really just go full throttle into it, because I want that head start that potentially others won't have. So that's why at the moment my whole every touch point of mine is somehow connected with AI. So for that, I apologize, but that's the kind of reason for being. I'm not on a hype train here. I'm on a, I just think it's just my instinct to want to do that,
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. But of course, there's a pressure because the pace is so fast that there's
Yeah,
like
it's tiring.
a tool for every day that one
Yeah.
should like look into. And maybe there was some good old days where you did the same work from start of your career to the end. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I also wonder, like, I still have decades of my career ahead of me. Like, what is the job that I will be retiring from?
Yeah.
Do you have a crystal ball to tell me what that could be?
I'm just looking around. I think I left it. I was down the pub last night, so I think I left it there, unfortunately. But, well, I don't know whether you want me to go down the AI route or whether we should pull
Bring
back
it
from
on,
it.
bring it on.
But I just wonder, and it seems to be that we're all becoming managers more so than anything, and that we are more strategic thinkers, and we're managing the AI to do the grunt work, So I wonder if it involves more of that kind of stuff than actually designing. Because here's the thing, OpenAI just released a new browser, and I know they're not the first to do this by any stretch, but it's changing the way that we interact with the web. And on my podcast, I said that maybe there's no need for design in the future, because the web serves as an archive to the world's contribution, information, and up-to-date, real-time database of things. And that AI serves as the front end, and we want to know, a certain designer or a certain person does this and this and this, and instead of me manually going out and reviewing websites, I just get the AI to pull that together for me and whatever. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know whether design will serve the same purposes in the future. We just don't know. But I see a version of the world where people don't want to be sat at their computer looking through hundreds and hundreds of CVs, looking at hundreds of websites to find their ideal partner. They just want the information brought to them and all of that stuff filtered out for them, because we need to rethink how we go about our day to day. So maybe there won't be a need for UI. Not too sure, but I don't think that's the answer you wanted, but it's a possibility for sure.
So we can basically forget about CSS at some point.
Hopefully, I'm sure many people will be happy about that. But or it might go completely opposite, and people want maybe experiences, because especially with SaaS in the last 20 years, you look at most SaaS companies and there is a very, let's say, efficient way of designing a website or a logo or whatever. Everything's gone sans serif rather. Maybe there'll be this revolution of like, you know what? We want a Renaissance period. We want everything to be elaborate. We want everything to be animated. Yeah. We want Flash to come back in the year 2030. And every website is a completely different and exciting experience. You just don't know the effect of all of this stuff that's happening. And that realism, we talk about AI making films and things like that. People crave that real person telling them this, that, and the other. Maybe the weather, we're happy with an AI person telling us the weather, totally fine. Yeah. But the news, I want a real person to say that. I want that person, actually in the war zone or the area of the world which is happening at. No one knows, right?
Yeah, I could totally get on board with that. And I already see, like, in the artist communities or channels in the internet, people are like adding these anti-AI tags to their products just to label that this is handwritten or made by hand
Weird, huh?
without AI. I also totally get that serves a value. I totally respect or value that product way more if I like.
You know it was created by someone.
Yeah.
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 It's just a sad state of affairs that we have to say this is not AI. You know, it's just, we should be able to feel it, right? But yeah, it is what it is. And people gravitate. Like I personally don't understand it. If it's enjoyable, then AI or not, I enjoyed it. But I can't argue with people like yourself who crave that human element to things, right? That human touch.
Yeah. Everybody has to go through this like dilemma in their brain that if you enjoy, let's say you talked about AI generated music in one of your streams, and if you know that it is generated with AI, does it like take off the value, or can you just enjoy it? Of course, it's cooler if you know that it's made by humans, but you can still enjoy it if you just know that it's made by AI.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
tough.
like we can go into the music if you wanted to. Like, music's such a big part of my life. And I sent my friend this morning, Oasis, actually, represent Champagne Supernova soul version. And he texts back saying that he's starting to enjoy this stuff more than the original. Now, yes, the music is AI generated, but the touch points or the connection that we have with the song is just very different now. For instance, maybe you wouldn't enjoy that piece of AI music if it wasn't for the original one. For a moment, for 2.5 minutes, you're living in an alternate universe where the singers and musicians of Oasis are soul musicians, right? So you're connecting with that music on a slight different level. There was one piece of music by a band called Korn, heavy metal, shouty, screamy, all this sort of stuff. You're able to hear the lyrics in the soul version. So again, you're connecting with that song on a different level. But without the original, you could never appreciate that AI music in and of itself. Like it becomes less about the actual production and, the actual piece itself, and more about the gateways that it opens up for you. So this sort of loosely, in some weird way, ties back to the way that, yes, the future is very different, but we're going to approach it and we're going to engage with it in just a complete different way. We just don't know it yet. We just adjust, as humans. But yeah, AI music's a weird one, because I'm time and time again listening to more AI generated music, and without the original, I couldn't enjoy the AI music.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know, but Finland actually has quite a few metal bands per capita. So, for example,
and Meshuggah from Finland? Were they German?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Or are they from Sweden? I'm not sure.
That part of the,
But you mentioned Korn. That's part of my teenage years. So
there you go.
Okay, yeah.
Freak on a Leash, right? Soul version. Check it out.
Yeah. Let's take this back to the Webflow things and whatnot. There's this new thing called Webflow Cloud. And of course, I, as a Webflow user, I'm interested. Could this be something that I could use, or I could maybe build a service upon? So I believe you have played around with it, and could you explain what it is and who it is for?
So this is where the audience participation comes in, right? You being the audience, okay? So I understand it, right? I understand what Webflow Cloud is. I have a course which is Webflow Cloud, React, that kind of world, teaching you all about that. Tell me, what do you think Webflow Cloud is for? How would you describe Webflow Cloud?
I believe you can build web applications and host them on Webflow servers. So now you just have more open place to host not more open, but more connected to your original site. That would be my understanding of it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty it's pretty good. The reason why I ask is that I think that I'm struggling to answer this very question really because I don't know the angle of the person that I'm talking with or their kind of understanding, because there are a lot of questions. But yeah, I think you're totally right. I think it's that unified experience from Webflow website to application to an experience that you can't achieve inside of Webflow. The most easiest example I can give is, you might have to do this on your own computer or whatever, but the WeWork website. There's marketing pages, there's about our business, there's obviously the landing page, there's this, but then you can go into searching, WeWork, what do you call it, like locations and things like that, right? If you were to do that in Webflow, you'd have all the marketing pages that have all of the information and all the rest of it. And then you would have the Webflow cloud side of things being that search, something you can't really achieve natively inside of Webflow. But with Code, you have access to APIs, you have real-time dynamic data and things like that. And so it just feels seamless to the user. You don't know that the website is Webflow Cloud. It just is. And then you can also drive the design of a experience like that with the Webflow website via DevLink. And it starts to get a bit messy there, and we can talk about that. It is that unified, seamless experience between the marketing site and the coding site. And yeah, I think your explanation is probably a lot better than mine.
Yeah, I'm curious, is this a feature that is, how should I say, mature, like ready to use? Because I have experience with like DevLink. We did one project, and I basically did some components, and then they were exported to the actual project that was hosted somewhere else. And it kind of felt like it was kind of working, but it was not like there yet. So how do you feel about the maturity of these things?
Why audience participation? Why wasn't it working for you?
Yeah, there were quite a few external things too. So there was a outsourced team, and they kind of like used some of the components, but then like did their own components. So the project was not managed that well, and I believe that was the bigger issue. And yeah, I just got a sense that the actual developers did not like to use those exported components. They just wanted to build their own.
Yeah, which is interesting. I think there's definitely an assessment piece there where you find a development team who are more interested in putting the puzzle together rather than designing the puzzle, as it were. Like, my belief is a good DevLink project will be that you build essentially atoms. You build the buttons, you build the headers, you build maybe some slightly bigger components, but then the dev team just wraps that in sending off or passing in the data or doing this kind of, again, putting together of the jigsaw piece. But if they're a team that doesn't want to do that, then they're probably wrong for the project. But in answer to your question, though, I'll be honest, I'm having a lot of hiccups with the whole Webflow Cloud ecosystem. Certain things not working, me having to go in and change the code specifically of DevLink components to have it work within a Next.js project. I'm working with Webflow to kind of amend that, but it's because they're using Create React, I think, to build their components. And it's like, well, who uses Create React anymore? And oftentimes I'll follow the tutorials, and again, there'll be bits and bobs that are missing. So in terms of maturity, I would say that it's probably, from a technology standpoint, it's probably there. It's probably really flexible, but to efficiently work with it, you're bumping up against a lot of things. I'm trying to get what am I trying to do at the moment? I'm trying to do the object storage or the KV storage, which is key value pairs, all powered by Wrangler, which is a Cloudflare service. Things aren't appearing. Things aren't appearing on the Webflow website, and it's just constantly hitting these blockers, really. And it's I can't progress as far as I'd like with my course. I have all of these half-finished tutorials that I can't release just because, again, the documentation is a little bit of a mess and it's not quite working smoothly enough for me to convey that or to give you a seamless experience on working with it. So, again, from a technology standpoint, like it works. I don't think there's much they need to change there. They just probably need to work on the communication aspect to it. So, yeah, I wouldn't be concerned with, it going down or breaking or whatever. I just think it will just take a while to kind of set up your project and your little ecosystem of DevLink and Webflow Cloud and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. That is fascinating. I wouldn't consider myself as a developer, but I see all of these kind of like opportunities, and as I learned like the basics like HTML and CSS through Webflow. Maybe these could be the triggers for me to dive a little deeper. And with that segue, how does code components like fitting this puzzle?
Oh my God. How do you think it fits into this? Because this is where I feel like it really starts to fall apart, because code components are great, right? They're great. This is where I was hitting a roadblock actually, because I wanted to bring code components into a Webflow Cloud project, which I think is pretty standard thing, right? But I actually needed to edit the code the DevLink component coming in. I did edit the code, which will get overwritten when I next sync the project. So anyway, there are two ways to create code components, right? You can create a React component in code and then just wrap it in the code component sort of function, right? Webflow just give you a function that you provide it a React component and then you provide it configuration. And then you can push that up to a library that you can use in your Webflow website. So, or you can, which they haven't released yet, you can develop code components through AI inside of Webflow that you can use in your project. Ultimately, the code looks exactly the same. They both kind of serve the same function. The differences, which I can't confirm just yet because I don't have access, is that code components built inside of your code base that you sync up, those are libraries. Like those you can use across multiple Webflow websites, whereas the AI version is only a code component that you can use inside of that site. Saying all that, there's nothing wrong with you copying and pasting that code into your local code base and then syncing up and having that available across multiple websites. But that's the kind of immediate difference I can see. But it's a code components just in of themselves are just a way to provide advanced functionality, like areas or sections into your Webflow website that go beyond just simple CMS, reading the CMS or whatever. You can interact with APIs. You can just provide really interactive and dynamic areas. It's server-side rendered, which is great as well, I believe. Yeah, code components are server-side rendered. So that's obviously something you want from an SEO standpoint and just a performance standpoint. So yeah, I think it's an exciting technology. I just wonder whether it's too convoluted because it's all using DevLink technology. It's too convoluted for people to truly understand, and it's too much of a thing in the face of information. It kind of paralyzes you all trying to think about how you can really leverage this, but not too sure. But yeah, if you want a little section that's pretty kick-ass, then build it as a code component. You can't build that in Webflow, build it as a code component.
Yeah. I can attest to that. I'm totally paralyzed with all these features. Well, Webflow in itself is getting like huge and very complex. There's all sorts of features like, to mention few, like localization and analyze, optimize, and now this like more geared towards developers features that we just talked about. So kind of maybe bringing it back to where we started about the ambitions and direction of the Webflow. What do you think that Webflow is like trying to do with all these developer features?
I think it just comes down to capturing a market share that they don't currently have. They've got two core user bases right now. Actually, I invite you to correct me. I think they've got the marketers or the marketing teams, and they've got the designers. And they've never really been able to capture the developers, right? Developers like myself can kind of come in. Webflow slows people like us down with what we want to do. So they just want to capture that side of the market, or more specifically, probably the app development side of the market. That's where I think they're putting a lot of their intentions. Like, they've kind of nailed the UI interface. Like, is there anything that you really want from a UI standpoint in is there anything missing from a UI standpoint that you want from Webflow? Probably bug fixes and maybe little organizational things, but like, it doesn't need an overhaul. There's probably lots of things in the forum that people want, wish list items that they want. But yeah, I just think they're trying to capture the app development and the developers side of the market. Are they at risk at watering it down? Potentially. Watering down the solution? Potentially. But yeah, that's where I think that they're going for. I don't know if you agree, or whether you agree that those are the two.
Yeah, I do. The designers, as we mentioned, that there might be better options for if you just want to do like a smaller scale websites. You might go with the framer. And yeah, I see more and more people just doing like the Webflow development part, not meaning like app development, just like the static CMS website thing, and letting some other people do the design part. So I think that they might be watering down the design aspect, or trying to go towards the marketing team. That's the core. And then with the app thing, yeah, of course they have these features, though they are definitely going for that market. But my sense, and correct me if I'm wrong, that my sense is that they are not there yet.
Yeah. So the thing that we, Kabaza and I on the show mentioned is that what Webflow used to be great at is really articulating who it is that they're building for. I think every company could benefit from this, right? When they're going to introduce a new product or a new, whatever, is that they start the presentation with the goal, right? So as an example, so then people can clearly understand, or they can maybe even zone out of the whole thing. Like, let's take a Webflow's latest conference. They start that whole section with something along the lines of something very straightforward as, we want to engage and we want to make Webflow the place for diverse and dynamic website applications using React or something like that. Or it could be, we want to capture the developer market. I don't know, just giving you that context in which that you can go in and start addressing, go in and start understanding whether these tools are relevant to you. Because I think, again, talking about that paralysis thing, people just are like, whoa, there's just a lot going on here. Is it relevant to me? I don't know. So you just want to segment those audiences, make it super clear what they're trying to achieve with it, and not have people confused. Because analyze is for marketers. It's not for you as a designer. Wouldn't have to worry about it. If you're interested in learning new tools, of course, go and learn it. But it becomes overwhelming. Too much choice.
Oh, yeah. And we can already see that people are like specializing within Webflow. So
yeah.
Why not to say it out loud?
Yeah.
Okay, we're quite in the deep end right now. There's a couple of topics, of course. I gotta ask you, what is like your number one wish list item for Webflow? You mentioned wish list. I'm not sure if you have checked the Webflow wish list lately, but there are
I haven't.
some things there. But maybe from your standpoint, what would be a feature that would urge you to use more Webflow?
Yeah. Well, I'm not obviously not looking for things for myself to use Webflow or to encourage me to use Webflow. I actually thought more about the community and the user base more than that. Things I'd noted down was, and we came up with this on the show as well, that I think a really good place for them to add AI would be for marketers to generate pages with a prompt, but using components, using a framework that a designer has put together. So you're letting the designer be their best self in creating a system that Webflow, I think the page builder that they have, components, things like that. You create an amazing framework for then a marketer to come in and say, create this page, fill it in with this information. I think that would be the best use of AI inside of Webflow at the moment, I think. Who am I? The other one, and I know they've improved this, but like unlimited nesting. And I would love to know why it's taken so long I think they're allowed three nesting CMS collections, I think. Do you know what the number is, or do you know what because like, I don't think you can go on.
Yeah, they just updated that, and I'm currently sitting on the same number. I'm not completely sure, but yeah, that's probably it.
And I don't think you can nest another CMS collection inside of those. So, this is basic WordPress stuff where you just, you loop within a loop, and, maybe they just don't want the site to break. But even then you can provide errors and things like that in the UI. So the nesting needs to be better. That was a massive thing that put a lot of where you have to manage some really wacky workarounds to try and get CMS collections nesting, and people were drawn towards the FinSuite solution, which is JavaScript. It's not really nesting anything. So yeah, the other point I was thinking is just, again, more from a community standpoint, just being more clear, as we were just talking about, being more clear with who these products are for and what they should be enabling them to do. I think just overall their messaging, which isn't really a feature. It's just, I wish they would come back to something like that to sort of focus more on the community. They used to be so great in the community stuff, but for some reason I don't know. Do you feel attached to Web, or do you feel more disengaged from Webflow as a company now than what you did maybe 3 years ago? I'd like to them to figure that out a little bit.
Yeah. Communication is always somehow hard, and you can improve on that. But I'm obviously biased because I'm in the Webflow partner group and chats and so on. And I actually do not follow them too much in the social media. Well, on YouTube I do, but not on X and so on. So yeah. But I was going back to your first point, which was about AI and using the components. That would be very cool, because now that they are pushing the components-based building, people are already building a lot of like components, and if AI could use those, that would of course be ideal. But isn't that kind of possible through the MCP? I haven't played around it enough to know, but do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It could be. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that there's any MCP, functionality to put together pages using specific components. But I also feel like at the end of the day, it's using AI, it's through a prompt. So just making that more of a making it clearer, the communication maybe a bit more. But I do think people like logging into Webflow and just being in that interface, so it's maybe bringing it to light through that interface itself.
Yeah,
might be the direction that I'm more hoping they do, because MCP is a weird one. It's still something people haven't quite tapped into just yet, and it's not, people don't make the association between Claude Desktop and Webflow because they're just completely attached. Whereas when they're logged into Webflow, it's like, I know I'm in Webflow right now. So yeah, maybe they have figured that out in the MCP, but might be something to look into.
Yeah. A little nerdy detailed question. How many MCP servers have you like integrated on Cloud Code
That's
or Replit or whatever?
That's a very personal question, Yana. Okay, that's very part. No, so oh god, this is too nerdy. It depends. It depends. Like, I mean, I've got a bunch of MCPs, but there are certain ones that I want access to at all times when I'm coding, and that is Ref and Exa. Ref is a documentation MCP, so whenever it is that I'm, using, let's say, React, React. Go on, React. If they add something new to that, then the LLM isn't going to have that information. So Ref always goes to fetch the latest documentation and builds code around that documentation, or at least verifies it. Exa is a dev-specific search engine, and which I'm tempted to update to Perplexity, but it goes off and fetches things, but it's always in the context of code as opposed to, searching something and getting some result from slightly relevant, but just not helpful. So those are pretty cool. And what do you use for project management? Or do you use project management?
Well, at some point in time, I used Notion, but now I'm actually going quite lean. So I usually just end up getting myself into clients' project management tools. So in Slack or Teams or whatever. But I do have a to-do list app, actually Todoist, that I use for my own stuff. So nothing major.
Do they have an MCP server? Does Todoist have an MCP server?
I'm not sure.
See, you should
actually,
look.
I do not know. Yeah.
Get it. Well, again, if you want to create a bunch of to-do lists and this and that and whatever, an MCP might be the way to go. Especially a lot of people using their voice now, to say things. So if you were going to, in that prompt box, put on your voice thing and say, create a to-do list for blah, 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 or like, you could rattle a bunch of stuff off. But that all being said, I'm trying to get into Linear. I'm hearing an awful lot about it. It has an MCP server, and I want to try and work that into my dev workflow. So I think those are pretty much it, because the thing is about MCP, especially when you're coding, it eats up context. So you don't want MCPs running all of the time. Obviously the Figma MCP, gosh, like I've got a video on that as well. Like this Figma MCP is incredible for implemented design. But again, I don't want it on all the time because I'm not in design mode all of the time. So yeah, you've got to be quite selective.
Okay, since you mentioned the Figma MCP, I of course want to know how close are we that we can just hook the whatever AI with Figma and Webflow MCPs and then just ask it to fetch the Figma design and do it in my preferred framework in Webflow.
That would be the dream, wouldn't it? Because then that's what Framer is great for, is that you have that design interface and then it's also a website. So Figma's always going to be the dog's bollocks when it comes to design, because that's just all they do. Yeah, I probably wouldn't think it would be that long. Like I don't know enough about the Webflow MCP to know that it's actually capable of like taking design or like, whatever. But there must be this. I'll have to get back to you on it, because there must be a way to do it. Whether there's an intermediary to say Figma to cursor and then cursor up to the Webflow. Yeah, probably not too long. But are you saying then, because I asked this question years ago, are you saying that you would just completely omit Webflow and you want to just work in Figma? That you'd be completely happy just working in Figma for the rest of your life?
Not really. I prefer working in Webflow. That's like my knee-jerk reaction. But
yeah,
of course, I'd like it to like do the heavy lifting, and maybe even if someone else like does the design, and
they give
I'm
you
sure.
a starting point.
Yeah, and
because like breakpoints are difficult.
Oh yeah, and of course there I believe there are nothing towards the animations not integrations. So hopefully those will be updated. But again, I'm just looking for some automation to decrease my workload on every part.
Have you tried the Figma to Webflow plugin?
Yeah, actually, I used it today,
Okay.
but I just synced a bunch of variables, but it didn't work. So, yeah, I used it back in the day and found that it didn't work as well as I'd like it to. So today I tried it again, just a minor like case, and it again did not work. So I have heard that people are actually using it, but I also wish it would be better.
I think it's about like, setting expectations and knowing that it won't just build your website for you, but it might give you a starting point. It might do your desktop design, and then you can do your tablet and mobile from there. But
yeah, I sometimes teach like total newbies to use Webflow, and the look in their eyes when they found out that there is a plugin called Figma to Webflow, and then I'll have to tell the bad news that it might not be the thing they are looking for.
Yeah, that's the top search probably on YouTube. If you were to type Webflow, it'd be like Figma to Webflow. People want this magical solution that just does it, you know. In their minds it's logical, but from a technology standpoint it's actually really friggin' hard. Auto layout made it easier because it's basically using Flex, but yeah.
And I believe there are like agencies or studios named like something along the lines
for sure
to Webflow.
PDF to Webflow or whatever, you know.
Okay, this has been a blast. We gotta land this plane, but there is still one thing that we have to go through. This is a weird off-topic thing. I'm not sure if you have listened or watched any of my episodes till the end. There's this little section that usually comes as a surprise for the guest, at this point at least. So what follows is that I'm gonna tell you a Finnish saying or an idiom or metaphor. I'm gonna translate it to English word for word, and you have to guess or know what it stands for.
Okay.
Is it clear?
I think so.
So yeah, the saying for you is firstly in Finnish, repiä pelihousut, and in English it is to rip game shorts. So what does it mean when I say that guy ripped his game shorts?
Okay. I think I get it. So rip game shorts. Is it that you've just worked really friggin' hard?
I can see the logic in that, but for some reason these sayings
they never make sense.
They are not. Well, it kind of makes sense. It just means that the person is getting angry or is angry, so he rips his game shorts. Like you can imagine that when people play football and they get angry and then they just rip their game shorts.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a little. When was the last time you said that?
That is not actually too like unique, so to speak. So I actually would use that, but I cannot remember. I guess I have been around people that are not getting angry. So, but if you ask a Finn, they will definitely know that one. Okay. So Samuel, if people want to know more about you and maybe contact you, where should they go?
First and foremost, my website, samuelgregory.co.uk, not .com, .co.uk, and anywhere on the socials with 0x5am5 should do the job. But samuelgregory.co.uk should just point you in all the right directions.
Yeah, and I obviously will put all the relevant links in the descriptions. Also the Cmd+AI and Jupyter and Giraffe, and are there any else? Of course, there's a bunch of AI tools that we mentioned, but people already know about those. And
check in the link description.
Okay, it was an honor to have you. Thank you so much. And for the listeners, watchers, see you in the next one. Bye.
Keep on vibing.